for services. We had it right here in town, right here. I mean, it was interesting. We'd go from house to house. And I don't know if you remember Joe Lipsy. Some of you will remember Joe. But Joe kind of led the congregation, and he was the late rabbi, and we had services on Friday nights with him. Talk about my parents and my family. My family came from Eastern Europe. My father's parents were from Czechoslovakia, and my mother's parents were from Russia. And very interesting history in that my great-grandfather came over in 1850 for the gold rush. He was a cowboy. Came over and got pictures of him with. Didn't bring any of this thing because I didn't know that was part of the game, so I didn't bring anything. Besides that, most of them stuck in the books and it's hard to get. But he came over. We got pictures of him with his guns, and he was a cowboy. Came over in 1850 in California and stayed for 2 years. Became an American citizen in that 2 years. Became a Mason in those 2 years. And never discovered gold, but he did have a gold nugget that big, solid gold, that big as a golf ball. And it sat on their mantelpiece in their old farmhouse in Cordele, Georgia. What happened, he went back to Czechoslovakia, got married over there, and then brought his wife over. He was an American citizen, so he brought her over, and they were farmers at the time and winemakers. And I do have all the gold wine testing equipment. I don't know what it is, but it's beautiful stuff, and it's very well boxed and so forth. But so somehow they thought that they could make a living growing wine, growing grapes, and making wine in Cordele, Georgia. So they moved to Cordele, Georgia, and they had a farm down there. And if you come in my new bagel shop, you don't have to buy any bagels. You'll see my daddy's picture on the wall in front of the old farmhouse, and I've got him up there. He's a little bitty kid with no shoes and half a pair of pants. He's shaving with a clothespin. He didn't have a beard, but his dad had lathered him up. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, they went to Cordele, Georgia, and in order to, go along with their trade of making wine. And Prohibition came along, put them out of business, and so they opened up a grocery store there in Cordele. And there was 4 children. My father was the youngest of 4, and my grandfather, who was also a Williams singer, died at age 51, and my dad was about 15 years old, and his older siblings had flown to Cuba, so it left him to take care of his mother and his sister. So at age 15, that was his deal. He went to work. He never made it out of high school, but very bright gentleman, to be honest with you. But he went on, and finally they moved to Atlanta, and they kept the farmhouse. They rented the farm and made more renting the farm than they could work. So they moved to Atlanta, and he went to work for a wholesale clothing company when he was about 19 years old. And when he was about 21, I guess, 1934, let's see, he was born in 1909, so he was 25. When he was 25 years old, the guy he was working for said, look, I understand there's a clothing store in Silvertown, Georgia, that they're looking for somebody to come open up for the mill store. At that time, we had mill stores. And, whatever the mill did, that's what, they owned everything in Silvertown, and people that worked there, traded there, they came in and you didn't have to worry about it, because if they owed you any money or anything, the mill, it was like, like a mill store. So my dad says, fine, so he borrowed $100 from this guy, and he came down here and he opened up Singers in Silvertown. And there again, I should have brought the letter. I didn't bring anything, but I've got the original letter that Mr. Matthews wrote my father, and told him he could have the store $50 a month, and Biff Goodrich would look after all the roofs, the floor, the lights, and everything else, paying $50 a month, and give us a house for $1 a month, $1 a room a month. And so they moved into a 3-room house over there on Elm Street, I think. And that was in 1934, and things were going along pretty good. My dad was a kind of a pool shooter. shot a lot of pool, and so he made a little money over there. He's next door to the pool room, so if anybody ever wanted him, they could always find him over in the pool room. So he was easy to find. I came along in 1937, and we lived out in Silvertown until I was 6 years old. When I was, what I can remember is we lived on Oak Street at that particular time. We had our school building was in the old community building, of which I also have a picture in Billy's Bagel Bus, so if you don't remember what that looked like. But that was a great place to go. We had just a wonderful community out there. Amos Yates. Well, we were the only Jewish community. We were the only Jewish folks out there at that time. But at the other time, the rest of the community, the Jewish community, lived in town, and you know, most of them right there on Thurston Avenue. Right now it's all run down. Thurston Avenue used to be a kind of a, you know, a lot little cleaner and nicer area. As I was coming along, we had a few Jewish kids in the school system, myself and my sister, God bless her, and the Sandwiches had two children. They had a fellow named Billy Sandwich, who was a couple years older than I, and I don't know if y'all remember Billy. He was in school with Bobo Davis, and that time Billy died at a young age. He had diabetes. He was very active, very bright, and he had a younger brother named Gary Sandwich, and then we had the Glass, Sherry Glass, and Phyllis Glass, and the Hartmans. So we had a few things. So when Jewish holidays came along, you know, we all left school. We missed school, and Mr. Hazelwood and Mr. Moore, they would, you know, they would not give a test on the Jewish holiday. They did, you know, they went right along because, you know, we would have to miss those things. And, you know, I still remember that, the consideration that we got. And I think one of the reasons that Thomaston was so easy, because I hear contemporaries talk about what they went through from prejudice standpoint and harassment and so forth, and that I think that in Thomaston, Georgia, my father and the rest of them, Abe Greenberg, and I bless him, and Joe Litch and all, they made no bones about it. They were Jewish, and, you know, they were proud of it, and that's who they were, and there wasn't any problem. And I think that a lot of times when I see people that have had things, it's that they've tried to not, I don't mean project, but they've tried to incorporate themselves and do things that is not Jewish, just so they can be a part of the community. And I think you can be a part of the community by being, I mean, you have Baptists and Catholics and everybody else can all be part of the community by looking after the religion. During the Jewish holidays, all the Jewish stores closed up. All the workers got off. Interesting story, when we always closed our retail stores on Jewish holidays, and when I went into the insurance business 20 years ago, I closed my office on Jewish holidays, and I've only had two I won't say administrative assistants, used to be called secretaries, and my first one was kind of a character. Y'all may remember Richard Colby, but I had his daughter, Donna Colby, and I told her she was getting off of Jewish holidays, and she worked for me for 15 years, and then the last 5 years I had another employee. When Donna left, she told the other employee, she said, "It's a good deal. We get all the holidays, and you get 2 Jewish holidays a year." Well, that was really good until the first Jewish holiday came out on Saturday, which I'm closed anyway. So my new employee says to me, "Well, since I get Jewish holidays, do I get Monday or Friday?" So I let her pick whatever she wanted to. I raised 4 children here, and I think they're all very successful. They are all very happy, and that makes them successful. They did well some of them did well in school, some of them did average in school, some of them did not so good. But anyway, they did well, and I think they did well. And unlike my growing up here, we did not have a big Jewish community. When I moved back here in 1966, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, back here. And when I moved back, the only Jewish community was me and Richard and his wife, and they had no children then. And Charles Cass and Gussie Cass was all that was left at that time. So my children, I had to transport them to Atlanta or Macon in order to get a religious education for them. So what we did, we held a little Friday night service at my house, and the kids understood that it was a football night, and we would eat dinner at 5 o'clock or 5:30 just so that they could go to football, but they were going to be at my house Friday night service. And then we took them to Atlanta to Sunday school every Sunday morning. And I could hear them on Saturday nights praying for rain because I didn't like to drive in the rain and go to Atlanta, but it didn't always work. Anyway, we got them up there and we got them educated, and my son was bar mitzvahed in Atlanta, Georgia, and you know, they can just a nice community. And that's about what I've got to say. I will certainly entertain any questions about the religion or about the history that I know, or I will take any comments on teaching me some of the history. Jerry McDonald back there has known me since, you know, years ago, and we've done a lot together. We've hunted rocks and all that. Yes, ma'am.
I remember that they said Mr. Cass was the only city councilman?
Absolutely. I did not bring that up. I have it written down here. Yes, Irvin Cass was city councilman, and he was vice mayor also, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
And he had a column in the newspaper.
Absolutely. He was a Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Georgia, and he was a journalism major, and quite a gentleman. My father was extremely active in all the civic clubs. He was extremely active in getting the crippled children to Atlanta through the Shrine, active in Lions Club, and so forth. So, yeah, but Irvin was quite a scholar, and Gussie was the same thing, just quite intelligent. Both of them were I can't remember if Gussie was not, but Irvin was a journalism major. And he did write for the paper. You're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that up, because that had
Did you mention Titan Tea?
That's what I was fishing to bring
They
up.
brought Titan Tea. I was going to talk about my mother's and my father's store. My father started out in Silvertown, and like so many husbands and wives, my mother decided he didn't know how to run a store, and she'd do her own. So she went to town and opened up Singer's Tots and Teens. And I'm going to tell you now, Singer's Tots and Teens had nothing, high quality stuff, really. As a matter of fact, I'm looking for a little coat that one of my daughters wore, and all of her children wore, and my brother's daughter wore, granddaughter, daughter wore. So, and it all came from Singer's Tots and Teens. But the one thing about Singer's Tots, back in the shoe department, she had a little merry-go-round that you could sit on and try on your shoes. And it's a wonder that there's a child left in Upson County that has any toes, because she had this x-ray machine that you could put your foot under and x-ray your feet to see if your shoes fit. And I will tell you, kids would stay with that thing, they'd put their hands under it, they'd try to get their head under it. It's a wonder they were all not radiated to death with that thing. But it was kind of an interesting thing, because you could look down through this periscope, and you could see your feet, and the kid could see it, and then there was another one over here so the mama could see it, could see if the shoes fit or not, see where the toes were in the shoes. But that was quite an interesting thing. And I had an Aunt Pauline that was a old maid that lived with us for years, and my whole life actually, and she did worked out at the Silvertown store. Yes, Al.
Billy, how'd you go to Georgia Tech?
Huh?
Why did you go to Georgia Tech?
Why not? Because I was going to be, when I graduated high school, we got some Bunsen burners up there at the new Science Center. And Mr. Calhoun, we were talking about that, and he said, and we were playing with those Bunsen burners one day, and we were making experiments, and I was the only one that didn't blow something up. And he told me, he says, Go up and see, you're going to chemistry. He said, that'd be good. So I went to Georgia Tech to be a chemical engineer, and that lasted for 3 months. Because all I'd ever seen was a Bunsen burner. Man, I was in competition with people like that. So I ended up industrial engineering, and I worked for Sears Roebuck the whole time I was at Georgia Tech, and right before I graduated, they made me a job offer and told me to take some management courses. So that's where I went to Georgia. That's why I went to Georgia Tech, because it just seemed like the thing to do.
Tell me about Miss Lena, and where did they find each other?
Okay, my mother, bless her soul, and a very interesting story about her. After we cleaned her house out, I found, and I've got those framed, I had them on my wall in the insurance office, I didn't bring them down to the store, but I found her birth certificate and their marriage license, and her name. Her name was actually Evelyn, but she never told anybody, so it was always written Lena, and she had written down she was born on January the 11th, 1909, and she was actually born on January 11th, 1908. So whether or not she didn't, but they never told her correct or whatever. But anyway, that is a very interesting story. In that my mother, how did you know that? Did you know? Did you hear
No, I
that
didn't
story?
know it. She was just so cute.
You know, everybody's got these stories. But anyway, my mother was getting married, and my daddy had been dating her, and he didn't feel like he had any money to get married. And about 2 weeks before that she was to get married, he told her that if she would marry him, that they would get married and they would run off and get married and not tell anybody, so they wouldn't have to live together and it wouldn't cost anybody. So they did. They ran off 2 weeks before she was getting married, and they got married along with a friend of theirs who, Ellen knows, Maya Reuben Brothers floor Covington in Atlanta. But anyway, they got married 2 weeks before, and they didn't live together for 6 months because each one of them, my mother worked at Sears Roebuck, and my father worked at this clothing wholesaler. And then when they finally figured out they had enough money that they could tell everybody, they told everybody got married, and they were going to give an apartment. Nobody believed them. They made them have another wedding. So they had 2 weddings. And, right after that, they moved down here to Thomaston.
What did you tell the guy that she was supposed to marry?
That I don't know. I don't think. My mother was quite a character, and I bet she had not a hard time telling him whatever she wanted. But she came down and opened up the Type Team shop, and made multitudes of friends, and was a wonderful bridge player. Very aggressive, and an aggressive personality. My mother would tell you, when people would tell Richard, my brother, says, oh, this food here is just like your mother would make. Richard said, I couldn't eat it. He said, my mother couldn't cook worth it. And that's right, she never cooked. I don't think she could cook. She could cook a steak under the broiler, and she could pick out the best apples there ever were. Never got a mealy apple in my house. But other than that, my aunt did all the cooking in my house. And she worked in the store all of her life, really right until the day she died. Matter of fact, she played bridge the day she died. And, but, yes.
How large is the Jewish community here now?
Well, I'm about 200 pounds. My brother's probably 260 pounds. It's me and my brother, and his daughter has just moved to town, and his granddaughter's in town in Charles Gas. That's about it.
What about Mr. Osterman?
Mr. Osterman, you know something? I just met him last week. I'm glad you brought that up. He's a fellow that came up and introduced himself to me at the bagel shop, and he said he's been here 6 years. He lives out in the county somewhere, and he's married to a Thomaston-Upson, and I think they actually go to one of the county Baptist churches.
They live over on Deer Chase off of
Absolutely, right. But I had forgotten about him. Thank you for bringing that up. He introduced himself to me last week, and very nice gentleman. And I met his wife. We had some interesting conversations about his coming up north and my being raised here in the South. Matter of fact, up north, they don't think there's any Jews who talk like I do. Yes.
When I was in college in the late 40s, my older brother, Jimmy Bentley,
Sure.
and I worked at Cass's store,
Right.
and to make some spending money for Christmas gifts. Some of the happiest times of my life. And Abe always called us, of course we grew up in the country out Tri Cemetery
Right.
Road, and he always called us sharecroppers.
I graduated with Mel,
Yes, I know.
and
I know.
Mayor was certainly a wonderful friend of mine.
Melvin and my sister Clay, I was
Right, I
very,
love them both. But, yeah, a lot of people, and I'm serious, a lot of people came through working for Urban Gas.
yes.
And, my father used to hire 16 kids for Christmas time, and, just to, people come around wanting a job and just have something to do, so it worked out very nice.
I remember walking up to Silvertown, the community building, we call it Silvertown. When I was a little girl, I remember seeing you and Richard in your dad's store.
Oh, yeah.
Daddy bought all his overalls there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We slept there every Thursday night on payday. They stayed over 2 o'clock in the morning. And we slept on the counters there where the pants were every Thursday night.
And another thing about the Catholics, they were so good to the mill people. They let, I remember Mother and Daddy bought a lot of things there, clothes for us too. At that time they had, clothes for
Sure.
children too. And they let them just pay so much a month. I mean, they were just so
Oh, yeah.
good about, things like that. They knew though that the mill people were going to pay.
Absolutely. Well, that was back in the days of loyalty both ways. Both ways.
I'm the only person alive who ever lit a cigar for 8 green.
I know I ever did it.
Lit one.
Benny, what about Ray Osterman and his sister Shahidi Green? You remember them?
Who?
Ray Osterman?
They had the bakery, but they
They-
weren't Jewish, were they? They were.
I don't know
They had
them.
the bakery.
They
I
had the
don't remember them. I
bakery.
think they may have been German.
Oh, really?
I don't think they were Jewish. I'm not sure, but I don't
When I
know.
heard the name Osterman.
It's a funny thing you mentioned that because,
Did you know Abe?
we get way off the subject here. But there are, back in the old days when, back when things were a little rougher than it is now, there were 2 factions of Judaism. There was the Ashkenazi Jews, or the Eastern Europe, and the German Jews. And the German Jews tried to make their religion a small part of their life. And, for example, in Atlanta, the German Jews belonged to a place called the Temple, and they had Christmas trees and that type of thing that we don't have. And when I was coming on, when I went to Georgia Tech, my grandmother, if I dated a girl that was from a German Jew, she thought they were non-Jewish. She didn't, I mean, boy, that was forbidden. I mean, it was a terrible thing, but now it's not like that. But back in those days, the Jewish population that came in from Germany, whether or not, for whatever reason, were trying to emulate the Christian community more so than the Eastern European community. Yes.
I can't help but to think about your dad and the work that he did here, and I couldn't go by without mentioning it. For many years, he was known as Mr. Shriner, or Mr. Crippled Children in this section of the whole state.
I didn't want to brag on my dad.
Well,
But he
I saw you now, and I'm going to brag on it.
He sent thousands of children right here from Upson County to have their legs redone, to have club feet fixed, and he personally drove many of them up there.
He did, and he carried them, the ones that he couldn't get to the Crippled Children's Hospital, he carried them to the Scottish Rite.
Absolutely.
And he was on close terms with Dr. Kite up there.
He and Dr. Kite was the bone man that invented perfected the way to fix club feet by cast. And Mac can probably tell you more, but
As a medical student, back in about 1955 or 56, I was assigned to work with Dr. Kite for a month, and I came in first day and introduced myself. He said, "Where you from?" And I said, "Thomaston, Georgia," as he told me about his day.
right. They were great friends, and my dad kept pictures of hundreds of these children, and they would come back to see him. I mean, it was amazing because particularly the ones he drove up there, and that was his thing, was the shrine, and, he really thought it was a wonderful thing. And, in those days, there wasn't many ways that children got. I mean, there wasn't any welfare, and there wasn't any, Medicare, and, if somebody needed something done, either he looked after it himself or he got it done with guys like Bridie Dickens and some of these old Shriners, and absolutely. So, but thank you, Bridie.
There's something else, I'm not through bragging about it.
Go on, brag on
When he was potentator of the temple down in Macon, I don't think it's been surpassed yet in the record that he put on the work that he did toward crippled children and all the other philanthropic things that Shriners do. His record, I think, will stand among all the potentates that we've had down there outside Temple.
I think so too. And,
What about the band, the Shrine Band?
oh, absolutely. He invented the Oriental Shrine Band, and he made it national. Now they've got them all over the place, and he was the first one that invented, never could play a note. He had the idea, and he could blow that thing, that squawky musette, but he did, and he was, matter of fact, he was an international president of Oriental bands at one point in time. And he brought a lot of fame, you know, and I wasn't going to brag on my daddy, but he brought a lot of fame and fortune to Thomaston, Georgia through his shrine work. He really did.
Do they still serve at the ball field?
I think so. I'm not active myself anymore. You know, as you get older, you get out of some things. How about Tom? They still?
Yeah, it's still active. I'm too old to.
That's what I say. But yes, they run the shrine, the concession stand in football now. Anything else? If not, Don, thank you for inviting me. I had a good time researching, had a good time thinking about it. And,
We appreciate it. I'm glad you gave recognition to Billy Sandwich, my lab partner in the chemistry lab over at the school. An intelligent group at that lab group, Sandwich and Alan Falk and myself. And you can imagine that. Sandwich is the one that threw the magnesium in the sink to watch the explosion at the office upstairs. And I suppose Dave Greenberg almost twisted my ear off every time I went in that store. Thank you very much, Billy. We appreciate it. We appreciate the contribution to the community. Thank you again for your attendance. And if you'll speak to Billy on your way out, and again, express your appreciation too. Thank you for coming.